Paria Fuel Trading Company Limited, Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard, as well as independent subject matter experts, today agreed on a way forward with respect to the location and recovery of the 4 divers who have been trapped in the 30-inch pipeline. Based on advice from all the experts, the operation has now moved from rescue to recovery. The experts have also agreed on a joint effort which will see a water displacement process being used to gradually push the bodies along the 400-meter pipeline to where they can successfully be recovered at berth 6. The procedure to achieve this is currently being designed by Paria's engineering team, with the aim being to ensure an uninterrupted movement of the bodies along the pipeline to the point of recovery. This decision was arrived at after lengthy deliberations with the leadership of LMCS, Paria, Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard, and 2 independent dive experts. As chairman of the board of Paria, I would like to extend my condolences to the families of Mr. Rishi Nagassar, Mr. Fyzal Kurban, Mr. Yusuf Henry, and Mr. Kazim Ali Jr., who is the son of Mr. Kazim Ali, Managing Director of LMCS, on the loss of their loved ones. I would also like to thank all the members of staff of Paria and all the other stakeholders for their unending commitment and support in these ongoing efforts. At this stage, I would like to hand over to the General Manager of Paria, Mr. Mustaq Mohammed, and Mr. Colin Piper, Terminal Manager, who will provide the technical details of the operations to be undertaken. Thank you.
Good evening to the media and listening public. My name is Colin Piper. I'm the current Terminal Operations Manager at Paria and the Incident Commander for the response to this incident. So on Friday, February 25th, around 2:30 p.m., an incident occurred at Paria's offshore installation. It was reported that 5 divers from the contractor LMCS were missing. Paria immediately activated its incident command, mobilizing rescue operations, including Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard, Trinidad and Tobago Fire Services, commercial diving experts, contractors with technical support equipment for investigative works towards rescue of personnel. At the time of the incident, the contractor, LMCS, was working on a 30-inch diameter pipeline, submarine pipeline. The efforts are still ongoing. I would like to express condolences to the families of Mr. Fyzal Kurban, Mr. Rishi Nagassar, Mr. Yusuf Henry, Mr. Kazim Ali Jr.
Following on from what Colin just described, Paria is currently moving from a rescue operation to a recovery operation. And this is based on the available expert advice from the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard and a number of commercial diving experts that were consulted. It was determined that we now have an intolerable risk to send divers down into the pipeline to attempt rescue operations without first determining the conditions in the pipeline. Over the period since the incident began, a number of technologies were used, including cameras and underwater crawlers, to determine the pipeline and the conditions within it. When this information was collected, gathered, and analyzed using our experts and the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard, it was determined that based on all the information we had, the probability of survival was very low and the risk of rescue was high or intolerable. This decision was not an easy decision, and it was made in consultation with all our stakeholders, the incident management team, including our contractor, LMCS, the Coast Guard's diving experts, engineering experts, and Paria's engineering team. The decision was made after careful consideration to two key factors. Number one being the extremely low likelihood of survival, and number two being the risk of placing human life in danger in furtherance of a rescue objective. Our focus now is to treat these bodies with respect during the process of recovery and to return them to their loved ones. We also are paying particular emphasis on not placing any persons in harm's way during these operations. I too want to express my deepest condolences with all the families and loved ones of these persons, and to commit to them that we remain resolute in the principle of the recovery operations. This is the update we have as of this time this afternoon, and we are willing to take questions from the media to find if there's any further details.
Hello, good night everyone. My name is Cindy Rabiba-Tika Singh, TV6. When was it determined that this would now be a recovery mission and not one of rescue? When was that determined?
That decision was made this afternoon in conjunction with our contractors, with our experts from the commercial diving fraternity, and with the input of the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard.
Mr. Mohammed, what I mean is, when was it determined that the men were no longer alive and you all could not go in to rescue and instead go in to recover bodies?
We can't answer the question of when it was determined whether the man was alive. What we are saying is that at this time, based on all the advice we have gotten, the likelihood of survival is extremely low, and the risk of human rescue into the pipeline is extremely high.
There is a country outraged tonight. 3 days later, you all are coming with this press conference. Why wasn't something done sooner when there were relatives who went in within an hour or two to save one of the men, and nothing done since that to possibly go in? Even relatives have been saying that they've been volunteering. Why hasn't there been a mission out there outside of that?
Cindy, as we said earlier, the issue that we have been trying to understand and work around is understand the condition within the pipeline before placing any further person in danger by entering into that pipeline. During the time, we have spent and used various technologies to get into that pipeline to understand and determine what were the conditions, so we could have felt that it was safe enough to put another person in harm's way in a rescue situation. Gathering all that data and having discussions with the best experts we have in country, including the Coast Guard, it was determined that that risk of sending divers into that pipeline was intolerable.
At the start of the incident, we consulted with the Coast Guard, and they assessed the situation and determined that they weren't able to enter the pipeline because they didn't have sufficient information. We used cameras which we inserted into the pipeline to try to gather information as best as we could. We also spoke with Mr. Budram, who provided additional information. We discussed with the Coast Guard, and we discussed with commercial diving experts who were mobilized on site with this additional information, including video footage. And they still, after consultation, they still advised that the risk was too intolerable for their divers to enter the pipeline, and they indicated that survivability was very, very slim.
Although we want to make that recovery process as quick as possible, our focus is more around the method that we use, ensuring that as we recover these bodies, we recover them in a way where we treat them with respect, we recover them carefully, and we're able to deliver them to their families. So time is relevant, but the way and the respect we treat with this recovery operation is more important to us at this time.
All activities must be are done in Paria. We risk assess, we have process and safety guidelines. While we have an incident and we need to move very quickly, we have to be very careful that we do not endanger, put other persons at risk, and put the situation at further compromise. We have with the experts, with our team, technical teams, we have worked together to put the plans in place. We have started activities in preparation for recovery, and we expect that to be soon.
The method for recovery is a water displacement process where we are going to use pumps to pump liquids water into the pipeline at predetermined pumping rates to ensure there is an easy and smooth removal of fluids. We call it a liquid displacement process, where we are going to displace that liquid at a rate to be able to move those bodies very slowly to the point where they could be recovered. Very slowly, very carefully, very respectfully to the point where they could be recovered.